really what's going to be coming from this event and many, many more that we have to come in the future. But, you know, we're living in uncertain times right now. And first want to just say, you know, everybody on this call, we pray that your families are well, that you guys are safe, and that, you know, everything's, you know, still moving forward for you and your business and your careers and different things like that. But really today, and this webinar is about having just dialogue and conversation. And so, you know, we're really excited to have all of you guys on right now. I'm going to be introducing the host, who's actually going to be, again, hosting this entire event. But again, today is about dialogue, it's about entrepreneurship, and it's about celebrating entrepreneurship specifically in the Black community. And so we have some of the top successful entrepreneurs in the Black community that are here on this call that I'm so excited that you guys get the chance to hear from. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our host, and that is Mr. DaJuan Cofield. Just so you know a little bit about his background, you know, DaJuan is a good friend of myself and my husband, and he actually came from a football background. You know, had a football career, was doing very well, transitioned out of that, actually went into being a teacher, but then realized that he just had a greater calling on his life. And now he's an entrepreneur. He's in business with his fiance and is, you know, has one of the most successful financial services agencies right now, making multiple six figures, you know, on his way to seven figures, and just doing amazing things right now. And so he's someone who's passionate about this topic that we're going to be talking about. He knows this stuff. He has years of experience when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. And so I don't think there's anyone better to really kick off this event and to host it. So with that being said, again, thank you guys for being on. Thank you for listening. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Mr. DaJuan Cofield. Go for it, DaJuan.
Awesome. Kirsten, can you hear me? You guys give me a thumbs up loud and clearly?
Yep, we can hear you.
Awesome. Well, welcome. We already, like literally before we started, maxed out. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. We're excited to kick things off and bring a different spin on business and entrepreneurship. We call this the Opportunity Zone. So welcome to everybody. Welcome to the Opportunity Zone. And I'm just going to get straight into it. I'll tell you guys a little bit about why and how this came to be. A little bit about myself. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, California. And I remember just growing up and I saw a lot of basketball players. I was a big basketball fan. And I saw these people with nice cars and homes. I said, man, I don't know what I have to do to become wealthy, but whatever it is, I want to do it. And I pursued a dream. I remember I started playing college football at San Jose State, which was awesome. It didn't work out the way I wanted it, but it was great. I got a great education. I got 3 degrees out of that place because my grandparents are from the Mississippi. They marched with Martin Luther King growing up in the civil rights era. And they said, go to school, get a good degree, get a good job. So guess what? I got 3 degrees, right, at San Jose State. I got an AA degree, actually out of West LA College, didn't transfer to San Jose State. I got a BA degree, I got a master's degree. My bachelor's is in history, right? And that was great. But I actually got a chance to get signed undrafted by the 49ers. The NFL always tell people, right, it stands for not for long. So I knew it wasn't going to be a long time thing, right? But that was great. It was short-lived, but it was awesome. It was a great experience. And after that, I called my old high school, Palisades High School. I said, hey, I have my teaching credential. I have, you know, my degrees. Hire me. They said, you're hired. They gave me a salary, which is $60,000 a year. And it was great. It's a noble profession, but it's one of those noble professions that I truly believe is undervalued, underpaid, overworked. And I was just at a point, you guys, I was talking to my mentor, Dan, about this. You'll hear from him. He said, DaJuan, what it really was, you were sick and tired of being sick and tired and didn't even know it. So I was just at a point, man, I was very busy, but I wasn't productive, right? And I wasn't broke, but I didn't have money. So I was just in that gray area of life, man. I was looking for more, and I was just kind of putting it out there that I'm looking for something, right? And I fell in love with personal development, but all I knew was school and football. Like, that was it. I knew education because my grandparents beat it in my brain, right? And I knew, because that's all they ever knew, even though I'm the first one, not even to graduate college, but just to walk in the door. And that was awesome. And I played some football, but that's all I knew. But what I really learned was the power of associations and becoming a better person. And I love this PowerPoint here that I was put together, because I see Jay-Z here. It says reinvent yourself. And the brother on the left, in the year 2000, he was 30 years old, worth $10 million, right? And he reinvented himself. Now 20 years later, he's worth over $1 billion. And one of his rap bars, I love it. It says, nobody's built like you. You design yourself. So some of us just got to get in the phrase of, in the idea, the mindset of, hey, who do I want to become? And I say, you know what? It's all about associations. That's number 2. But number 1, it's all about disassociations, right? And there's some people you have to, when it comes to business and progressing, right? I was the cool guy on the left. I said, who do I have to become the guy on the right, right? And this is, you know, years apart from each other. I went from being broke and cool to being weird. All my friends thought I was cool back then, right? But I was broke. Now in business, all my friends think, you know, I'm weird. I say, hey, I'd rather be weird and rich than to be broke and cool, right? So it's all about who you're associating with and et cetera, because at the end of the day, we all just want to win for our families and life and business. So I'm going to tell you what this platform is going to be, what to expect. This platform is going to be very candid, right? It's going to be a place where we can actually excel and have dialogue amongst our community, because let me just get straight to it and kind of set the pace here. I remember when I was introduced to the business, period. And I wanted to learn about business. I wanted to learn about real estate. I wanted to learn about finances. I wanted to learn about taxes. I just wanted to learn about the American business. And I was talking to someone, and this gentleman, this person wasn't African, he wasn't Black. And I asked him, I said, hey, in this business, and I can't wait till Dan talks about this, but he said, in this business, you know, what's the fastest way for me to get to the top? And let me tell you guys something. I'm 25 years old at the time, right? I'm living at home with my mom. I said, I'm a teacher. My mom's in the front house. I own the back house. So we like split the mortgage or whatever it was. And I said, you know what? There's got to be more to it. There's got to be another way. So I was introduced to business. I was substitute teaching at a school. I was working with children with autism. And the lady comes up to me. She says, you know what? If you were working with my husband and I in business, you can make a couple $1,000s a month part-time. So she invites me. I meet some people in the Valley of LA, and they bring me into the business. They start showing me how business works, how finance works. 2 months later, I go up to one of the executives. I say, hey, can I borrow some of your time? I just have a specific question. How do I get to the top in business? I'm an African-American man, as you can see. I don't know too much about finances. I don't know too much about business. And the person looks at me, and I was ready for some great advice. I see a lot of you guys taking notes, which is awesome. I was ready for some great advice. And someone looked at me and said, the fastest way to get into business and to make it to the top financially is you have to stay out of the Black community. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I want to bring financial literacy to my community. And he says, that's not the fastest way to the top of any business. You got to stay out of the African-American community. So here we are 5 years later. The company's paid my fiance and I over a couple $1 million in the last 5 years. We're propelling, we're excelling, but I did not have a platform where I can be myself. I did not have a platform where, to be frank and to be honest, I have brothers that look like me and sisters who look like me to help me win in business and to give me that example. And I finally met a gentleman named Dan Charlier, and then I started meeting a couple different, I said, okay, it is some brothers winning here. It is some sisters winning here. What I heard when I was 2 months old in business was a lie. Brothers can win, sisters can win. We can dominate in financial services. I can dominate in business. We can dominate in real estate. We can dominate in taxes. Just different. I said, okay, you know what? Dude, you know what I should do? I'm going to just give you guys the honest truth. My fiance, she was on a women's panel last week. It was like women empowerment, which was awesome. And she says, hey, you know what? You know all the executives, all the brothers in the company. I just got off a women's panel. And if you brought these gentlemen together, I know you guys can like unite in business and the company and share ideas and create a platform where people that look like you actually feel comfortable. And so I know I'm getting excited. I'm fired up. I'm happy that you guys are on here. But anyway, I'm DaJuan Cofield, and I want to let you guys know that's why you're here. There's a platform. It's going to be a Q&A. And I know what everyone on this call is thinking. Where are my sisters at? Where are the ladies at? Guess what? Stay tuned. We're going to, based on you guys' participation, we already maxed out the call from the jump, which is great. It's thousands of people on this call, right? So based on the demand, we're going to have an all-ladies panel, right? And then we're going to do some couples. And we're going to talk about some stuff like myself. I grew up around gangs. How did I make it out? We're going to, this isn't like, what is it called when the politicians, this is no political correctness here. We're going to have conversation, right, where you are, right? We're going to be at your level. You're going to bring you to our level and vice versa. So to kick us off, I'm done speaking. That's the best part of all this. I'm done. I'm going to pass the mic to someone I believe is, leading the way. He's a great man, great family man. This brother, this gentleman, he actually used to be a mechanic, right, in San Jose, California. And he got started into business broke, living payday to payday. He's at 24 years old. And he says, hey, you know what? I want to get into business too. So me and him had the same mindset, but like 15 years apart or even 10 years apart. And his name is Paul Hart. He's an executive vice chairman in finances and business. And he's developing a great business, a multi-million-dollar business. Him and his wife, they're earning over $750,000 a year, 1099 take-home income. We're going to throw out big numbers like that so you guys will know. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the MC, if you will, to my brother, Mr. Paul Hart. Paul, are you there? Can you take over the call?
Thank you. Can you hear me, DaJuan?
Yes, loud and clearly.
Appreciate it. Well, thank you, man, and thank you for hosting this event. I mean, this is a great time. We're obviously quarantined. I think the whole country, well, some states are probably reopening, but we're all on lockdown, and we got to get free. We're all trying to be free, and I think that's what resonated with me when I first came into American business was trying to be free. And you guys, I want you to consider yourself a fly on the wall in a powerful conversation where we're throwing around numbers that I was never aware of. I never knew that somebody like myself, because I have a degree too, a PhD, and it's a public high school diploma, if you know what I mean. And I didn't know somebody like me, and it wasn't a very good public school. It was riddled by gangs and drugs, etc., especially in the era when I was coming up. But we made a decision that we were going to go do something different. And so listen to the conversation. Some of the language and the vernacular that we had when we were growing up, we're not using that same language now because our mind has been stretched. And I heard somebody say a mind stretched beyond its capacity or beyond its original dimensions will never go back to where it was before. So I think what you guys are going to all see is that we are nothing more than products of our thinking, as we all are. That's my mother. My dad, both my parents are deceased, so rest their souls, but I was raised by traditionalist generation, hardworking folks that went to work and, they didn't call in sick on their day off. My parents were born in 1938. And I just remember growing up in the city. My dad's from the country and I'm biracial. And I only really knew my dad's side of the family. And I just remember when we moved to California, my dad taught me hard work, the work ethic, the values, put your head down and be a good man. But my dad never had a lot of money because he made a modest salary. And I remember coming out of school and seeing a lot of the people that had the jewelry, that had the change. You watch the MTV, you watch, these athletes, and we want to have what they have. We want to have time, money, and influence. That's really what we want. When I wanted to play baseball, it wasn't my obsession with the ball and a circle that it goes through. It wasn't or basketball. When I was trying to play baseball, it wasn't my obsession with the ball and a stick. It was, I wanted time, money, and influence. When I wanted to be, I wanted to get into the rap game, it was time, money, and influence. And seeing what's happening with Hollywood and a lot of things, thank God we probably didn't go down that route. But what can you do? Because if you got this conversation is for somebody who has a dream in their heart, a vision in their head, and courage in their spirit. And yes, when we're on quarantine, it doesn't mean that they can quarantine your spirit, my friends. We can still brainstorm. And I hope you guys have a notepad and a pen and you're going to take some powerful notes and actually implement some of these things and put them into action. We're going to have a general conversation. I was a mechanic, but then I was transitioned out of being an automotive mechanic. I'll briefly narrate my story because I realized I didn't want to work for somebody else and build somebody else's family. I didn't want to build generational wealth for somebody else's family. I didn't want to put somebody else's kids through college and my kids are going through the public school system, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to find a way where I can figure out what I'm worth. And what I found out is I'm not tall enough to play basketball. I had some skills. Maybe I couldn't make it into the NFL. Maybe I couldn't make it into to major leagues. But in American business, it's all about we use our mind and our mouth. And if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. And I want to let you know as we highlight this panel here, success is literally like deja vu because when you think about it so much and you obsess over it so much, that's my sister there and rocking a little gold tooth on my graduation. I came from, I was raised by some of the OGs, a little different generation, but all we're trying to do is they taught me how to make money. I've always been an entrepreneur. We didn't even know what the word entrepreneur was when we were growing up. I just heard hustle. I heard grind. I'm from the Bay Area. I think we invented the word grind. But I didn't know that. And coming into this, I just never liked somebody else telling me what to do, when to do it, what I can wear while I'm doing it, when I can take off. If I'm going to be married, and I was single at the time, I don't want to have to ask another man or another woman, can I take off so I can go, on a honeymoon, or if I can go on a date night with my wife. I don't want to ask another man if I can spend some extra time with my kid's birthday party. I don't want to ask another man to give me money. I remember growing up, my dad used to say no. And I would ask him for no. And I got sick of hearing the word no. And then when I got my first job and I asked for a raise, I had to sell myself on getting a raise. And it seemed like I got another dad that's about to tell me no. And I just want to figure out a way where I can figure out what I'm worth. And then I get into the area of American business. See, I had hair. Y'all see that? I had hair, I'm telling y'all. But get ready when you come into the field of American business, but we're going to have a candid conversation, and we're not going to possibly not be politically correct. We don't even know what to call ourselves. I think as Black men or as Black folks, we've been reclassified so many times. What have they called us? African American, Black, Negro, colored, mulatto. I mean, what are we? We're one. Together, we can do something huge. And that goes for everybody. This is an all-encompassing group of people that, like I said, they got a dream in their heart, a vision in their mind, and they got courage in their spirit. And if that's you, welcome. We're excited to have you here. But guys, if we can just go around the horn real quick to figure out, why did we do this? I heard somebody say, find something you love so much you would gladly do it for free. See, my boy thinks he's the only one that got hair. But I heard somebody say, find something you love so much you would gladly do it for free, but then learn to do it so well people would be happy to pay you for it. And this stuff right here, if some of my folks, my old school folks growing up, my blood brothers coming up on this line, I was always trying to speak some knowledge, always trying to figure out ways, because maybe being biracial, and I could speak to that, I would drive to one neighborhood where I see one half of my family and everybody's doing bad. And I'd watch the news, and I'd watch cops, and I'd watch all this crazy stuff, and they had us looking bad. And then I'd see the other half of my family, and I'd see everybody doing good. And all I knew was both sides were good, hardworking, honest, God-fearing people. Why is there such a disparity in the wealth gap? Figured out the answer. When you let another man tell you what you're worth, especially if you got a little bit of a different hue of complexion, they're probably going to pay you a little bit less, and you'll never get what you're worth. What I had to learn in American business is that hourly wage and salary are placing limits on yourself and your family's well-being. And we got to go out there and start to live on commission, meaning if I work, I eat, and if I don't, and that's how everybody that's learned from the hustle, that's how we all grew up. And I think that's the perfect platform for American business. If we can go around the horn, guys, that's the reason I want to do this. This is a conversation that needs to be done. I love the fact that you organized this, but why are we doing this? What's on your heart, and what compelled you out of everybody we talked to be part of the panel? Lester, let's start with you, Lester.
Hey, Paul, thank you so much. Appreciate your introduction. DaJuan, thanks for hosting this. Hey, I'm originally from the Caribbean, Paul, and I moved here to the U.S. when I was 15 years old. DaJuan, you can cue the PowerPoint if you'd like. But here's the truth. I grew up with great parents, a loving, kind island called Dominica. And when I came here, I just graduated from high school. I was 15 years old. I'd just become the prom king. So I was on top of the world at that point, right? And so those were, I think, that like some of the glory years of our lives is when we're coming up. And then I moved here to the U.S. To go to school. I went to West LA College, not coincidentally, just like DaJuan. And I went to get an associate's degree because the system down in the Caribbean does not translate to the U.S. And that was me and my dad there. That was a hunting trip with my dad. By the way, Dominica is not the Dominican Republic. You got to get that right. And yeah, and so here I am, and I'm growing up. DaJuan, you can hit the next slide. And so I had an amazing childhood. I loved my parents, loved my sister. This is me here in the Caribbean having food. DaJuan, next one, right? These are some of my great friends that I still have to this day from the Caribbean. And I was just growing up, right? And that was literally a few days before I moved to LA. And then I came here, I went to college, and I wrote my dad this letter. It's a handwritten note that said, Dad, I moved here. Here I am. By the way, back in those days, we would have to print out pictures. We'd go to the store, take the roll of filming, and print it out. And here I am. I said, Dad, I graduated from high school. Thank you so much. Love you. You're the best dad ever. And then fast forward a few years later, I transferred from West LA to UCLA for undergrad. And while I was there, my dad ended up passing away. And he was 50 years old. He was never sick in his life, was really stressed about money. And I was 20 years old. And I dropped school for an entire year. And I flew down to the Caribbean. And in 7 months, I lost everything it took my parents 40 plus years to build. And man, my mom was heartbroken. Family was devastated. And I came back here looking for answers. I finished school. But before I came back, I had a defining moment. I had a huge conversation, Paul, with the manager of a bank in the Caribbean. And the guy put me across the table as a 20-something-year-old, broke my heart. And he said to me, Lester, you either pay me $100,000 cash right now, or I take away everything your parents ever built. And man, I said, sir, I'm in school. I can't do this. I can do $1,000 a month. Would you please give me a break? And he said, no. And you know what that made me feel, Paul? And I can relate to how you opened up. It made me feel like somebody had a thumb on me. It made me feel like somebody was controlling my life. They were dictating what I could and couldn't do. And that's what really stirred something up in me to become a different human being and to take control of my life. And so what I decided is when I came back here, I finished school, left plans for grad school behind. I became a dog catcher for the city of LA. My bosses used to make fun of me. They said, Lester, you are the most overqualified dog catcher I know. You have a UCLA degree. What the heck are you doing here? Right? And so I went to work for the Department of Water and Power, LADWP. Those guys were paying for my master's degree in civil engineering, overtime, pension, for everything, name it, all of the benefits that people like. But for me, deep down on the inside, I was very unhappy. I was dissatisfied. One, because I knew I had a bigger purpose. Number two, I love people. And number three, I always felt like there was something great for me to accomplish. And so that's when my coworker referred me to what we do now. And man, I'm so grateful. There's my beautiful wife. She opened up today. Great job, Kirsten. Love you so much. Right? And we've been in business together now for a decade plus. And so I'm so grateful. She's my better three-quarters, I call her. And Paul, the reason, here's what I tell everybody. You've got to gain new skills in order to be able to transcend to new heights, right? But the truth is that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And so I want to encourage all of you on this call that if you're going to take a step into a direction, that you just start with baby steps. Take the first step towards your destiny and take the first step towards what you feel you're being called to, and you'll go from there. So Paul, thank you for that question. I'll ping it back over to you.
Yes, sir. Man, I'm sure dog catchers don't normally speak like that. They taught you how to do that in the dog catcher. Or was that in business? Yeah. And by the way, I don't even think that was a dog. That looked like a little fox, man. You go to the hood, they got Rottweilers. He was in the suburbs.
That was a coyote, Paul.
That's a coyote. Let's pass it over to, while you're doing this, Leland, why did you agree to be part of this great happening and great awakening for our people?
Thanks, Paul, man. I really appreciate it. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to give back for people to have more awareness, because I think people are looking for fairness. And since there's no fairness, awareness is fairness. And if you're aware of the opportunity that you can really do something great with your life, you can become a little bit more financially stable, financially free. But there are so many people that when I left the corporate America to become a full-fledged entrepreneur, really didn't understand the fact that where I was taking a step was into freedom. And I really believe in my heart right now that there's so many people that are struggling, suffering. We have all these things going on right now, and I wanted to be a blessing to them and be able to show them that, there is another side. There is another opportunity. And the other thing I like to just mention real quickly is that, are there many people out there that, are you getting paid what you're worth? Are you getting what you're worth for your time? Because time is something that you can't get back. And so if you're limited in your thinking, limited in finances, limited in opportunities, well, here's the opportunity where we're bringing this group of brothers together, these powerful men that I've had the blessing of being around, to be able to show people that they too can seek a little bit deeper and maybe fulfill their dreams and fund their dreams, and be able to do something great with their lives. So that's why I really want to do this and really, really give back to so many people.
And we're glad to have you, Leland. You're an example of success. And I'm sure you'll share your story and it'll connect with a lot of people, and freedom is what it's all about. That's what America was built for. That's why we sacrificed. That's why a lot of lives were lost. And I hope we keep that in our heart, but freedom isn't free, guys. Freedom is not free. Let's pass it over to Levi. Mr. Levi, one of the fastest people to the top. Talk about what called you to come join us on this panel and have this discussion.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. One, we come from place where it was a pure definition of being broke, you know. And I was one of those that lost my dad when I was 11 years old. You can think about it. My mom had zero education in Africa, zero education. And I was one who spearheaded, and I said, I absolutely have to go to school. And after graduating with a law degree in my country, I needed more, and I flew to the United States. The challenges that I had going to school in Africa as a young man was beyond understanding. Like, every single part of education is painful and it's not cheap. So, you know, I saw myself 3/4 of the year never going to school. And so when I was in the US and felt blessed just being a nurse, I told my wife, there are so many kids out there that are experiencing exactly what I experienced when I was a baby, and we can go help. So for me, the bigger cause wasn't me or my little family anymore. It was about helping the kids that I knew for sure were in my position, that you would never want somebody to go through that. So I was looking, you know, when I found this opportunity, there was no excuse at all. And so some of the challenges that people have in business, which is what we're going to talk about today, you can alleviate them when you have a bigger calling in your life. And this platform gave us the chance to do that. And as we have this conversation today, sometimes asking the right questions to be able to get the right answer. Most people spend their time asking the wrong questions. And when you start asking the wrong questions, it's difficult for you to get the right answer. And so I appreciate the chance that we can have an impact in other people's life. I want to be part of something innovative. I want to be part of something that can leave a long-lasting legacy. And I think with that, you have to develop the mental toughness to be able to do this. And this platform gives us that chance. So I am excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, sir. It's what you got on the inside. And Levi is one of us. Just to let you know, Levi is from Cameroon. So he's from the motherland. And I got a statistic here that should kind of piss you off a little bit if you're the right person. Because growing up, and I don't know if we've ever even had this dialogue, and you know, when we would be, you know, the Americans, and then we would have the Africans come over, and there was always a separation and divide between the Africans and the Black Americans. And we felt like they might have looked down on us, and they probably did because they came and got education, etc. But then once they came in close proximity with the Black American, all of a sudden, they're starting to get treated like everybody else, like all of us were. And so here statistically, 43.8% of African immigrants achieve a college degree. That is the highest out of any immigrant. Asian Americans are 42.5. Africans are 43.8. So out of any immigrant that comes here, Africans are the highest educated. Yet the incomes don't compare to everybody else. And I thought that was interesting. I heard that 2 days ago, and I said, man, welcome to the game. Like I said, this is all encompassing. We're all going through the same thing, and we're gonna get out of this together, because maybe they want us to social distance, but we got 1,000 people on this line, and ain't gonna take away our right to assemble. I hope you guys realize that. And that's how we got to where we are now, and we're gonna continue to do that by collectively coming together and not participating in the division. So let me pass it over to Dan, my mentor as well when I came in. Dan, like somebody of your status and your caliber, what called you to be part of this as well?
First of all, I'm excited to be with you guys. I think when DaJuan originally called me and asked me about this, and we started brainstorming, I started thinking about the value that it would bring to different people. You know, I remember when I was in the Marine Corps, and I got selected as Color Sergeant Marine Corps. This was 1993. And we do these Friday evening parades at Marine Barracks in Washington, D.C. And it's the highest tourist attraction in D.C. So you have the Marine Corps Color Guard, the Marine Corps Silent Drill Team, the Marine Band, which is the President's personal band, and the Drum and Bugle Corps. It is this beautiful Friday evening parade. And the first time that I was carrying the colors for that event, I remember after that event, somebody came up to me out of the blue. Somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, Color Sergeant, this is an awesome event, right? But where are the blacks?" And I didn't know what to say. I looked around, and literally there was probably 200-300 Marines on the parade deck, and I realized like there was no African Americans on the parade deck. Like I was the only one there, right? And then so I was so disturbed about it. I went to go see my first sergeant. And I said, First Sergeant, I said, somebody asked me a question. And I remember my first sergeant said to me, stay in your pay grade, Charlier. You don't need to worry about that, right? So I went to go see the colonel of the barracks, Colonel Salas at the time, and I asked him the same question. He said, well, ask the first sergeant. And I said, well, I did ask the first sergeant, but here's what the first sergeant told me. And then the colonel, what I ended up finding out is that first sergeant was actually in charge of the recruiting process to Marine Barracks 8th and I, because you had to be a certain height, you had to have a certain background and all of this stuff. And he was purposely not recruiting African Americans to the Marine Barracks. And then that's when we got that first sergeant replaced. And we started getting more African Americans at Marine Barracks 8th and I. And so I remember when I went to my first annual convention within our company, and we were at the MGM Grand, and we had like 17,000 people in this arena, right? And it was kind of like a gala award ceremony, and there were tons of leaders on stage from all different walks of life. You know, people like making $100,000, $250,000, $500,000, $750,000, $1 million a year. And I remember being in there, and I remember looking on the stage. I said, man, there's no African Americans on the stage. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I'm gonna be the first one, right? I was so excited about it. And I said, man, I want to be on that stage. And the following year, I got a chance to speak on stage, right? And then after I spoke on stage, all of a sudden, I started getting a lot of African Americans coming up to me. And they started to say, man, we're so glad that we saw you there. Now that we saw you there, we know that we can be there too, right? And I remember thinking about that. And I remember thinking to myself, man, God, I didn't go through that same process, because I was born in Haiti. I came until I was 9. So I wasn't introduced to racism until I was like 10 years old, right? And that's a whole different story. But the next year, I told this story about this guy that's in Manhattan, right? And he has all these balloons. He's got a white one, he's got a green one, he's got a yellow one. He's got all these balloons, and he's putting helium inside these balloons, and he's tying a knot, and he's allowing the balloon, and the balloons are going into the air. So there's this little African-American boy, and he's got this black balloon. So he walks up to the guy and he says, excuse me, sir, if you put that air in this balloon, would it go up? And the guy goes, I don't know, but let's see. So he takes the helium and he puts it inside the balloon, and then he ties a knot, and he looks at the little boy and he lets it go, and the balloon goes in the air. And he looks at the boy and he goes, I want you to remember, the balloon doesn't go up because of its color. It goes up because of what's in it. So I think for me, the dynamic of all of us here and this mastermind is now we really have an opportunity zone that if you look at Paul Hart, you look at Lester, you look at Marshall, you look at Levi, like what do all of these leaders have in common that's allowing them to gravitate to these different levels? And I think what you'll see as you're watching this is the mindset of a champion. If you've got the right mindset, it doesn't matter who you are, but we all think alike. So that's why I'm on, and I love to share this kind of stuff with everyone.
Love it. Love the message. I appreciate that, Dan. Dan's, I tell you, he's got a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience in a variety of areas in his life. And last but definitely not least, the guy we've always looked up to. I mean, one of the best people to ever run with the ball in the game of football, to ever grace the field, Hall of Fame. And I mean, we grew up watching him, and now he's on the same panel as us. And so just to kind of congregate with like-minded folks is a blessing. What's on your mind, Marshall? You could be doing so many other things, and you have done so many things. What compels you to be part of this?
Well, first of all, man, it's an honor and a pleasure to be on here with you guys. It's obviously we all have similar stories, different backgrounds, but we all share a lot of the same things. And I just want to kind of tell you guys the reason I'm here. It all stems from just the stigma and how we grow up and how I was always looked at. First of all, when you grow up in the projects, I'm from New Orleans, youngest of 6 boys. There's just this stigma that you're not supposed to be. You're not good enough. You can't do. You're always told what you can't do. And I encourage people, and I always start with this. I tell people, your dreams is the only thing that connect you to where you want to get. So think about your dreams. If you don't dream anymore, start dreaming. You got to have some dreams in life, because we're always told what we can't do, what we're not supposed to do, what breaking the rules are. Instead of them telling us how to do, how we can get it done, we're never told that. So the stigma of athletes and what happened and all of that stuff, I want to squash that. I want to educate the masses. I want to change the perception. I come from much of nothing, and I've created everything, fighting against all the things in life that you're told when you come from nothing, because they constantly want to remind you, not to mention the system is set up for you to become nothing, to keep you at nothing. And I tell people all the time, you literally, you attract what you are. And if you don't want nothing, then you're going to attract nothing. So I've always tried to level up. I've always wanted more. I always had big dreams, and this is no different. This isn't about creating anything. This is more of giving an opportunity, because what I've learned and what it took for me to get where I'm at, to come from where I came from, to be where I'm at today. I always talk about this. It's called distance travel. The path that I've walked, I've learned a lot of lessons, and I've had some highs and I've had some lows. But the thing is, I keep on the journey, because the journey doesn't stop. There's this thing about success, man. I'm in love with it. I am in love with success, and I can't stop being in love with it. It drives me, because it plays hard to get. It's like the pretty girl in high school. That's all I want to do is chase it time and time again. And so having a better understanding of financial literacy, wanting to share that, being a philanthropist at heart, and just wanting to give back. A lot was done for me to be here, so I have to do a lot to get others here. And this opportunity that we're presenting to people, to just let them know. This is what it's based on. Understand this: we are somewhere in life, but we sat where you may be sitting right now. And we're on a journey to get somewhere we want to go. And the thing is, I know for me, I might not ever get there. And it's not about what I accomplish, it's about what I leave behind. Because what I accomplish, listen, I'm not trying to be in this world and live life forever. No, I want to leave things behind for others to prosper. And that's what this opportunity is all about.
And I want to say, Marshall would, anywhere he goes, he would charge just to speak, and people would pay him just to speak. And I want to let you know he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart. And so we're coming from a good place to help you guys out. And I heard chasing success. When you're chasing success, you're in the zone. Once you achieve it, it's almost boring. You got to constantly be in the grind and in the chase. And I heard somebody say there is no success without successors. That's our motive here. We want you to succeed us. We want you to be better than us. And so with that said, Marshall, let me start with the first question for you, if I may. There's so many people that I've seen in business that have had a thread of success in something, whether it was football, sports, school, whatever it may be. But then when they come in the field of business, sometimes they find it a challenge to take that competitive spirit, that drive, that desire, and apply it over here. But you're somebody who did it on the football field. You're also somebody who's done it in American business. And what are some tips you can give somebody who's had some success outside, but coming into something new where they have to start from the ground, from ground floor again, and they may not want to do it? What was your mindset on how you approached that and came out victorious on the other side?
I always approach everything with a sense of humility. I walk in, regardless of my stature, what I accomplished and what I did, none of that matters. I'm going into something new. And I'm not too big to ask for help. I'm not too big. Nothing that I've done has anything to do with the new thing that I'm about to do. Now, the good part is I'm okay with letting you know what I don't know. That's the only way. That's the quickest way for me to become successful. Sometimes successful people, they always want to be the smartest one in the room. They always have to be right. They have to have all the answers. Well, why are you doing something new if you have all the answers already? So whether it's this business or any other business that I've ever done, I've always seeked out information, knowledge, help about how to be successful while doing something new. My past has nothing to do with my present when the present is something that I didn't do in the past. So just you have to be humble enough to put your trophies, understand what your trophies were in and that you're doing something different. And I think that if we can do that and just kind of step back and learn the lessons from the people whom are doing what they're doing, regardless of what they have, regardless of how old they are or how young they are, you just have to learn and put your humility aside and take in the information. And then whatever your profession was and whatever you were successful, your principles and what you used to do, that's when you can use that information, incorporating into what you're doing. And now you take the information and the knowledge, the information they gave you and the knowledge that you have, and now you soar past them because that's what you're supposed to do. Because you have the mindset that they don't have. The information is easy to get. The mindset is something that you don't, that's not easy to get.
Hey, and that's why you're a Hall of Famer. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts. And you're a student, the student of success in general. I've met people that have 1/1000th of the success that you have. And when I try to coach them, they think they already know it all. And, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. And you're speaking to the ego that so many people, it holds them back. And the male ego, this is a panel, there's a lot of people on here, but specifically the male ego, we will go to the death before we admit that we are wrong or we want to ask somebody else for help. And I would say specifically the black male ego, we don't want to ask anybody for help. Let me tell you something, there's people out there that are willing to help you. And what I heard is what's good on the ego is bad on the wallet. I heard somebody, do we want to be right or do we want to be rich? And I want to make sure my family benefits from me humbling myself because I don't know it all. And I appreciate that statement because if anybody can have an ego, it could be a Hall of Fame running back, and you sure don't. Let me pass it over to you, Lester. I got a question for you.
Go for it.
When you started out in American business, what was your biggest challenge? Because, everything isn't always rainbows and butterflies, guys. You see everybody posting stuff on Instagram, and that car, they don't even got the pink slip to that car. A lot of this stuff that we think is real it's fake, So there's some challenges. We want to talk candidly about the challenges, the bumps and the bruises of what you got to do. So what was your biggest challenge or the thing that caused you to have a down period or a failure? But I don't even want to use the word failure because you overcame it. And how did you overcome it?
Paul, that's a great question. And I love the phrase, you either win or you learn, right? And for me, one of the things that I really had to check about my ego was my financial discipline. In the beginning, I would spend a lot of money, got into about $150,000 of debt. I overextended myself, made too many big financial commitments. And I feel like that really held me back in business when I originally started, And that, for a guy to admit that, for a man to admit that he has a challenge with handling his money is a big deal. But if, again, we can check our ego and say, how can I learn to get past this? What are some of the things I can implement so that I do have financial discipline, I have security? And sometimes you have to give up some of the things that you think make you look cool, and you have to accept that, look, real security is having real savings, is having a base of financial security that nobody can get away from you. And so for me, I had to learn that. I had to cut up all my credit cards, aggressively attack my debt while still saving money. And I had to eat some real humble pie, real humble pie about the situation. I like what Robert Kiyosaki said, because when I heard this quote, it really resonated with me. He says, if you want to be a rich person or become a richer person, don't let the poor person inside of you do your talking. Right? And so I had to take that lesson, and I had to say, Lester, it doesn't matter what things look like on the outside. It matters what things are at home. And so for me, I really had to humble myself. And I think that, to answer your question again earlier, Paul, you know, why are we doing this and why are we being so vulnerable, so open, is because if there are people out there that we can help make the mistakes that we did, then I think that that brings us true fulfillment, true happiness. And that's why we're being transparent today, because we want you to get to a better place and avoid the pitfalls in life and business. Back to you, Paul.
Yes, absolutely. Great answer, Lester. You know, everything's about perspective. I like what Dan said when he said, you know, there was no people that looked like him on the panel. And he said, you know what? I'm gonna be the first one. How many other people would have said, there's nobody that looks like me, I can't do it? He said, there's nobody that looks like me, I am gonna do it. It's all about the mentality. It's all about what you think. What I heard Lester say is like, you can't, if our goal is to sincerely help people that are in poverty, we can't be one of them. You can't feed somebody when you're starving. We got to make sure that we, you know, man up. We save our money, because only then, after we put the oxygen mask on ourselves, can we help somebody else out. And there's always got to be, there's pioneers and there's settlers. Dan was a pioneer. Lester, you're a pioneer. All the people on here are pioneers. And pioneers are where all the goods go. You know, the settlers just get paid the salaries and sit in the cubicle, but the pioneers are the ones that own the world. Guys, we're looking to create more pioneers. And I love the humble pie, man. You have to admit it. And look where you've come now from where you were, man. And if you hadn't admitted that, nobody would have ever known that you made mistakes and you were wrong. So thank you for doing that. Let me pass it over to Dan. Dan, quick question. What's the biggest difference in perspective you have now about business now versus when you first started? Because I'm sure you've had a complete different mind shift. So for anybody on the call right now that's getting started, who Dan used to be and who we used to be, what advice would you give somebody from where you are now, from where you were then?
All right, question. I think for me, when I got started in '98, first of all, I didn't even know the definition of what an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what that meant. I mean, ever since I was 13 years old, I always had a job. You know, I grew up with a single mom in Brooklyn, and I started working at the pizza store right around the corner from the house, making the dough with the Italian guy. Then my mother comes walking in and chews the guy out for giving me a job at 13. And then next week, I started working at it was a Chinese food place. I was delivering Chinese food for this guy named Cash. And then whenever it would snow outside, I would always shovel snow. So I always had a job. I had a job all my life. So at 33, I think what happened to me is that the story that I was told that, you know, if you work hard and you land a good job, and you'll be able, at one point, you'll be able to retire and, you know, all of that stuff. And I started to see, I think I started getting exposed to successful people. And I've always been a dreamer. So I've always been looking at the houses and looking at the cars, and I've always been looking at certain people, and I knew that they knew something that I didn't know. So I think at 33, for me, I got to that point where I just got tired of being tired. You know what I mean? Because I was working hard, I was doing all the work, and I was doing all this stuff, but I was still making $2-3 grand a month. I was still living payday to payday, and all my buddies were broke, and we were all struggling. So I thought, for me, that's just the way life was, because I was going to do 30 years in the Marines, then I was going to do another 20 years to retire. So like, for example, 3 years ago, if I would have stayed in the military 3 years ago, would have been my 30th year, and my highest pay would have been $7,500 a month. My retirement would have been $3 grand a month. right? And then I would have got another job for another 20 years. That's what all my buddies did. So I wasn't really happy, but I wasn't really unhappy, which is a tough place to be because you're not really hot, but you ain't really cold. So you're just like, it's okay. You follow me? Because everybody's in the same situation, right? And it wasn't until I met my mentor in 1998. And when I met my mentor in 1998, he was 29 years old. I was 33. He was making $50,000 a month, and I was making $3 grand a month. And here's what became very clear for me at that point. What became very clear for me was, and I allowed myself to feel this. What became very clear for me was, Charlier, your life freaking sucks, period. I was waking up to an alarm clock. I had a boss. I remember the first time I was just having a conversation, a candid conversation like we're having right now. And I said something around him. I said, yeah, I was talking to my boss. And he goes, stop. With almost this look of disgust. And he goes, Dan, do you realize you're 33 years old and you're calling another man boss? And I remember thinking to myself, what do you mean? Everybody has a boss. And he goes, Charlier, everybody does not have a boss. You got a freaking boss, right? And that's when I realized, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Because I was always wondering, what's that person that walks out the big house with a robe on in the middle of the day? What's that person doing, right? And I think for me, the distinction is when I started doing the association, and then I started to understand that there's a different language as an entrepreneur. So now, when I look back now, I think about it like you could not create a word game for me to have a job, right? Because now I understand leverage. I understand all of these things, but that would have never happened, one, if I wasn't disturbed, right? Two, if I wasn't open for an opportunity. And then three, once I found the opportunity and I found a mentor, I think it's your ability to take massive action.
Yes, sir. You guys heard it. Boss. Double SOB spelled backwards. Not everybody has one. Maybe our wives, but we don't got another man telling us what to do, you know? So that's just the truth, guys. And who you are, who you associate with. If everybody around me has a boss, I think it's normal to have a boss. If everybody around me works 9 to 5 and thinks 75 grand a year is good money, then I'm going to think 75 grand a year and a 9 to 5 is good. But if I'm around people making 75 grand a month, 75 grand a year is not a lot of money. You get what I'm saying? So we are who we associate with. You guys just heard somebody who said, Haiti, by the way, is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And where Dan is in Beverly Hills, probably one of the most recognized zip codes on the planet. So if he can do it, it's what you don't see. It's what's coming out of his mouth. The way you can tell what somebody's thinking about is what's coming out of their mouth. It's all about the mindset. DaJuan, let me get a question into you, my friend. This is good. We got to have a follow-up to this because we're going to run out of time, and I want to learn so much from you guys. You grew up in the hood, you know, gangs, violence, etc. Obviously, you've seen a scarcity mindset, and now you have an abundancy mindset. Talk about that disparity. Talk about the change from somebody having the scarcity mindset, thinking that the glass is half empty, to where you are now, thinking that there's a lot of opportunity and the glass is half full. Same person. You're the same. You know. You grew up in the same place. You're not anything different. The thing you've changed is your mind. Talk to the people about that, my friend.
Well, Paul, that's a loaded question. I could get deep, obviously, but just studying history, what I've really learned, having a scarcity mindset for us, I'm talking specifically, it all stems from slavery. And it was a time where moms had to literally figure out which kid they were going to keep on their hip and which kid they were going to give away to the slave owner, right? And I just remember, and that's just been passed down. Like I said, my grandparents grew up in the South. And that's just been a limiting belief. But what scarcity really means is, what it really shows is fear, unworthiness, being stuck. And one day, man, I just woke up. My dad died when I was 6 years old. and he used to say some stuff, him and my grandmother, they would always say stuff like, money don't grow on trees. And for some reason, Paul, I was one of those kids, you know how you talk back to your grandma, you get smacked in the face? I would say stuff like, well, money's printed on paper, and paper come from trees, so technically money do grow on trees, right? So I just kind of always had that, you know, when people say it was too good to be true, right? I'm like, well, what if it is true? I was always that kid. They'll say, my grandmother, we stayed at church, man. 5 out of 7 days, we were always in church. And she would say stuff like, you know, money is the root to all evil. I'm like, well, the word says their love of money is the root to all evil. So that's not really true. So if you can imagine, I got smacked by my grandmother a lot, right? So anyway, but my whole thing was, dude, I just wake up every morning and I no matter where we are in the earth, right? The sun is always shining. And if the sun is always shining, there's enough sun for everyone to get shined on, right? And even when it's raining, the sun is shining somewhere else. So my thing has always been, you know, associations, getting around like-minded people or people who you want to become. The reason why, Paul, you and I are friends, I sought after you. I learned this from Dan. Dan said this to me before. He says, DaJuan, you know, there's a dog and then there's a bone. The bone is the value, right? So the bone never goes to the dog. The dog always have to go digging for the bone. I made sure I became friends with someone who had an abundant mentality. And how do I know you have abundant mentality? Because you have abundance in life of love, of stuff, because we like stuff. I love nice stuff. So I say, okay, Paul, Dan, Leland, Levi, Lester, like none of you guys, I can admit, became friends with me. I sought after all of you guys, right? And that goes for, honestly, probably 99% of the friends that I have in life. I just always wanted to get around people who already had, I guess, what I wanted. I remember times, man, it's just a little stuff because we all get triggered. And I have a sister that's 16 months older than me. I have a brother who's 16 months younger than me. So I'm in the middle of those two. And it'd be times my mom would say, all you guys pick one. We're not going to Burger King, McDonald's, and Jack in the Box. Pick one. And now that I have a 20-month-old son and I can't wait to have 4 or 5 more kids, I'm like, dude, if I'm saying this now, but I'm like, why can't we all have what we want, right? And people say you can't have your cake and eat it too. What the hell did you bake me cake for if I can't eat it? It's my birthday. You made me a cake. What do you mean I can't eat it too? So little things like that, I've always hated them. I'm like, what the heck does it even mean? Like, you made me a cake and I can't have it? So little stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, I surrounded myself by people who had stuff, who had an abundant mindset of love. Marshall Faulk, I should have sent this picture in. I have a picture of me at 10 years old with a Marshall Faulk jersey on because they went to the Super Bowl. And now Marshall Faulk's my friend because why? I knew he's a man of abundance and love, abundance and giving. And if I want to learn about our first couple conversations, we just talked about being running backs, hitting the hole, cutting back. Who do we like? Why, you know, just certain people. And Marshall was just so willing to give. I'm like, man, I met so many NFL Hall of Famers, and I just never been around a guy like that who's in the Hall of Fame, Super Bowl, and an MVP, right? But he's still giving like that. He's not like keeping a secret. And here's the secret about secrets. There are no secrets. So I honestly, Paul, a lot of it has to do with just being triggered by old stuff my parents used to say. I hated it. And all my friends had like Jordan sneakers, and I had whatever my mom could afford. And like someone in the world bought my friend every color of the Jordan sneakers. And then in my world, my mom got me what she could afford when she could. So I'm like, it's not that there's a lack of, we're just not aware of what is more. So I had to become surrounded by people that are aware of what is more.
Man, that's money. That's money right there. You know, it gets passed down. We don't realize sometimes we're unaware of what we're saying and the impact it's having on our kids and the next generation. And it's putting them in a spell. That's why they call words spelling, because it puts people in spells and we just believe it and we just run with it. If you think about this, I've learned in business, I've learned don't use the word I can't afford it. That is an affirmation. If I see something and my kids are around me and hear me say the word I can't afford it, but there's somebody else that can't afford it, what does that say about my existence? What am I saying to my kids? That word, I can't afford it, should not come out of our vocabulary. Our family and our kids should not hear that. I can't afford it now, but if we do this, this, and this, you better believe we're going to go get it. Stuff like that, right? Money doesn't grow on trees. Money's not that important. A lot of things like that. Like we got to start getting that out of our vocabulary because that's sentencing the next generation. Look, we come from places, guys, where God is abundant to us. You go to tropical places, fruits grow abundantly. There is no season where you don't have a mango on the tree. And we come from cultures where everything is always going to be there and we're always going to have enough. There is no scarcity. I take from you, dog eat dog. We got to go back to our roots where there's nothing but abundance. And so, guys, it starts with us. Our kids are going to grow up in privilege. They ain't even going to know what the struggle looks like. So what we have to do is we're going to do what we can while we have this lap on this planet Earth. Leland, if I can ask you a question, my friend. You probably didn't know what the word entrepreneur was either, like Dan was mentioning, but what are the most exciting things, or what are the things you're the most fired up about, the most excited about now that you've gotten out of that corporate 9-to-5 rat race and become an entrepreneur?
Man, Paul, that's a great question. And I would say some of the things I'm so fired about, number one would be the associations. Being around guys like you, being around guys like Dan, Marshall, all the guys that are on this panel, the associations of being able to be around successful people that want to give to you, that want to see you succeed, that want to see you make it to the next level, that are willing to give you the advice. Like I asked Dan Charlier some questions 2-3 years ago, and one of them was that if you were me right now and where I was at right now, what would you say would be the best thing that I should do right now? And he told me what I needed to do, and my business exploded. So it's things like that. Number two is the ability to be able to grow yourself. I think that so many people have fallen in love with the situation of being told what to do and being told, living in that safety zone and being in those places where they can't grow and they just go to the 9-to-5 and the ritual. And I can literally say myself, I believed everything that they told me to try to make it big. They said, Leland, go to school. I did that. They said, Leland, go get more degrees. I did that. I asked my old slave master, which was my old boss, that I got rid of, that basically I said, what do I got to do to get to the top of the company? He said, hey, Leland, it's really easy. Just work 60 to 70 hours a week for the next 8 to 9 years, and you'll make VP and still pay 40% taxes. And so I did that. But I say there's only one thing, Paul, that I say to a lot of people that are in my business right now. They say, Leland, what is your only regret about being an entrepreneur? The only regret that I ever have is that I didn't find it sooner, and I didn't find it faster, and I didn't be able to get to the things that I'm doing right now with my life. And the last thing I want to say is just the ability to be able to be active in my children's life, because I'm building a business that allows me to get time to be with them and not having things like TVs and computers and stuff like that, raising them all the time where I can't be active in their lives. I'm so fired up that I'm an entrepreneur and I'm able to watch them grow. I'm able to be an active father. So I would say some of those things are so important. And I hope that there's somebody on the call today that's probably looking at some of the stuff that's being told, and I'm still sitting here taking notes, but there's just so many things that we can actually apply when we understand what the God-given talent that we have inside of us to push ourselves to the next level. That's what I'm really fired up about.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. And you're somebody who climbed that ladder, got to a multiple 6-figure income, only to be extorted for 40% of what you earned. That's extortion. Let's call it what it is. I mean, where is this money? I need the documentation to see where this money's going. I don't know where this money's going. You know? I mean, let's call it what it is, but we could talk about this forever, man. But I hope you guys are seeing the similarities of what's gone on in our past. And if we don't study the past, it's doomed to repeat itself. And we're in that circumstance right now. So let me pass it over to Levi. Mr. Levi, we talk about distractions. You know, I think distractions, we call it, the okie doke in the streets, I guess. Look over here. Somebody goes in your pocket and takes something. And a distraction is what keeps you off track of your true destiny. Talk to us, Levi, if you could, and the people about how did you deal and how do you deal with distractions, internal and external, and what advice can you give everybody?
Thank you, Paul. One of the things, that kept me going is, you think about it, the entire world is all about distractions, right? There's so much distractions going on, like every single day. And when you can shift from the employee mentality to an entrepreneur mentality, now 24 hours is yours. What do you do with those 24 hours is what makes the difference. 90% of the people are unable, for them 24 hours is freedom to relax. I decided that my goals were gonna be my boss. Now I'm talking that you left the work and now you don't have a boss anymore. To make sure that I was able to eliminate every single distraction, I'll have those goals in front of me and make sure that I was grinding every single day. I will not leave any day or go to bed any day without having a set of plan, what I call to-do list for the next day, because then I have something that I'm going to rely on that cannot distract me. At the end of the day, I need to put it on all those stuff. The challenge is, how do you actually, get away from all this distraction? I was one of those who was totally distracted by soccer. Like if there is any soccer game, I will freeze, everything gone. Like I can miss church watching soccer. And at one moment, understanding that guys on the soccer pitch are making a ton of money and that is not paying me a dime, I had a paradigm shift. And the first thing that I did was get away. You have to eliminate the sources of distraction. What did I do? I get off some of the cable channels that had to do with soccer. Like I took everything down, and because I didn't have that source of distraction anymore, my goals became what I wanted to do. And to me, they said you need to set goals that are measurable and achievable. Now, it's okay that when you throw what's out there, it's going to come to you. I hated the fact that I set goals and I didn't meet those goals. Like, I'm the guy who will put pressure against the deadline every single day because I wrote the goals myself. And how on earth will the deadline come and pass without me achieving that goals? So I start becoming very brutally honest with myself that if you wrote these goals yourself, this is not something that someone gave you to do. They didn't give you this to execute. You wrote them down yourself and you set a deadline to meet them. And if that deadline is coming and you're meeting them, you're a failure. So that kept distractions out because I had something that I was working on, a definite deadline to meet it. So, and that's how I've been able to meet a lot of deadlines with making sure that what I write down, I have to make sure that I meet it for.
Hey, I hope you guys heard that. He has a deadline, all right? If you know how they got us in high school, they had a midterm, they had a final exam. If they didn't have a deadline for that final exam, I'd still be in high school right now. Deadlines are how we operate as human beings, and you have to understand the way the brain works. So Levi's giving himself a deadline. A goal without a deadline is just a wish. I also heard Levi say, writing it down. Writing it down. How many people got goals, but we don't take it and put it on a piece of paper? There's something special about taking something magical like a thought and then putting it on a piece of paper and then getting to work and then watching it build and manifest in your reality. And that's just the way everything gets built. So thank you for that, Levi. Let's hear from Marshall again. Marshall, habits are everything, as we all know this, and obviously you're somebody who's had some great habits, and maybe you've also had some habits that didn't serve you. We have to have habits that serve us, and there is no such thing as a good habit or an in-between habit. You're either in a good habit or you're moving in the direction of a bad habit. So Marshall, what were some of the most difficult habits for you to break? Maybe when you were coming up, still hungry, still trying to make money, and you haven't achieved success yet. But then even then afterwards, what are some of the habits that you had to break to say, I'm going to go do this again, even though you're already successful?
The thing that I know from my whole, like just the rest of my life, this is always going to be something with me. It was a thing with me as a kid. As I grew up as a teenager, and it's time. Understanding the importance of time. It's crazy that I was as good as I was in track, knowing how being fast and being early can sometimes win races. I was just bad with time, and more than my time, other people's time. And the minute that I was able to respect it, and here's the thing with habits: people think because you, let's say for a month or for 2 months or even for a year or for 2 years, you start doing something the right way, that it's gone. Understand this: a habit is something you've been doing for a long time. It's like people, when you listen to people, a recovering alcoholic, they're never done. They're still recovering. You're constantly working at it. Every day that I wake up, being on time, being respecting other people's time is something that I have to work on each and every day. It's just like it's paramount. I remember when I got to the pros, what I had to do after. So in college, you show up for practice late, or you show up for anything, any meeting late. They can't fine you. It's like, okay, you show up the next day, you got to run a couple of laps. I like running, so what's that? Well, you get to the pros, you show up late, they don't even say anything to you. You got like a $10,000 fine, a pink slip on your. It's like, whoa, 10,000. It was 9:01, not 9 o'clock. So you start to understand, and what I did was I started showing up an hour early. So you start to embed things, and you have to break those habits, because if you don't break those habits, all the opportunities out there for you, you're gonna miss them. You're gonna miss them. Opportunities happen for people that's on time, people that are ready. Opportunities, they don't just fall in your lap. Sometimes you come into a good opportunity, but I've never heard somebody late and, oh my God, I was late and this good thing happened. That's rarely. Normally you show up early and something good happens. So I just think about, for me, that was one thing that, and it's funny that you said it was one thing that even as a kid, I never wanted to get up. And the thing, I used to want to sleep in. I was hard to wake up as a kid. They used to pour water on me to get me to wake up as a kid. Stuff like that made me think I peed in the bed. But the thing that changed, and now I get up early all the time. The thing that changed me was I remember being in college. The guy that recruited me to go to play in college, he said, you sleep like you rich, and most people they gonna get up. They gonna get up like they broke. And I was like, it didn't make sense at first. Listen, broke people get up because they want to make money. Rich people sleep all day. And I was broke in college, so I started getting my butt up so I could work. I needed more hours to get better.
Yeah. No, I heard my pop say, you can't get ahead laying in the bed. That's that old school. That's that old school stuff. But absolutely true, guys. And habits are a function of the subconscious mind, and our brains are the most powerful computer on planet Earth, but they don't come with an instruction manual. And you got to start to learn yourself, and then I can think we can start to lead others. But thank goodness you did improve those habits, Marshall. How many people on this call, if we don't improve our habits, we'll never make an impact in the people's lives we should be making an impact in? So take it personal. Like, other people depend on us improving our habits. And habits are so important, guys. They're so important. Write down a list right now of the bad habits that you want to attack. And I heard it takes 21 days to create a habit. You wake up every single day. If you want to wake up early 21 days in a row, and I guarantee you won't need an alarm clock anymore. If we need an alarm clock, we don't have enough goals in our life. Maybe you got a job and you don't even want to go to work. But
hey, Paul, Paul, the best part about it is it takes 21 days to make a habit. It takes 1 day to break a habit.
Oh, and great point. If you're on your process of getting to that 21-day habit and then you break it, you got to start all back over to day one again and start over. And who knows if you're telling the truth? The person staring at you in the mirror. That's the only person that it matters to. And when you can, and I think you build that identity when you make and keep promises to yourself. Amazing things can happen in your life. Dan, over to you, and we'll wrap it up with this last question, and then Marshall, I'll bring you up right after. Let's see here. We almost had the same question. What's the biggest mindset change or belief that you've had in your life that you practice daily to be the best you every day? So what's the mindset change that you got to practice to be the best version of you every day?
I think for me, first of all you guys are doing an awesome job. I think for me, you know, we have so much access to information now, almost anything that you want to know about. I mean, there's YouTube, there's so much access to information. Almost, you know, as great as this talk is and what we're doing here, the mastermind is great. But to be honest with you, there's nothing that's been said here that you probably haven't heard in one fashion or the other, right? But I think what the great separator is not just knowing it, but your ability to take action on it, right? So there's a lot of people that they spend their whole life, they want to be entertained. So they're in the stand. So as you listen to Levi, Levi made that shift where he was, wait a minute, I'm sitting in my living room as a couch potato, and I'm watching all these multi-millionaires that are winning and leaving legacy for their family. And the shift happened for him. He said, you know what? I don't want to watch the game. I want to be in the game. So I think for me in the beginning for me, Paul, that was the shift for me. And that came from just getting to a point where I was so frustrated and so tired of being tired. And I realized that Charlier, as good as you are, this is at 33 years old, as good as you are, and I had a big ego, right? Small check, right? I said, and I asked myself a question, as good as you are, why are you only making $3,000 a month? You follow me? And then once I think I became disturbed enough, I attracted the right people around me. But once those people came around me, I valued the information that they were giving me. And here's how you value the information. So I knew if my mentor told 100 people the same thing, only 2 of them would actually take action on it. And I wanted to be that 2. I want to be that 2. I want to be that 2%. So I think for me in the beginning is really realizing that I had all these limiting beliefs. I had a poverty mindset and all of that stuff. And then I needed to associate well. I needed to start reading books and listening to audios. But more importantly, I needed to take personal actions on the things that I was learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just hear an underlying theme through all this about associations. And my question to everybody on this call, who is your mentor? I mean, who's guiding you? All we want to do is be a guiding light in a time of darkness and guide people through this process. And if you got a job, there's 168 hours in a week. And if you're being told what to do and when to do it, and everybody around you are 9 to 5, paycheck to paycheck, that doesn't mean they're bad. Unless they're trying to change, you know, I wouldn't want my kids hanging around gang members assuming that they're not going to become a gang member, right? They probably will because of the associations. I don't want my kids, so I wouldn't want to hang around with only employees if I want to be an entrepreneur. I need to start hanging around with people that can be the eyes where I can't see. They can be the ears where I can't hear. And we can navigate you through this maze called American business. And together we can do something huge. You know, we see visions of suburbs with our people in the suburbs. Those are like 2 things you don't hear. Our people in the suburbs. We're going to have great communities. I mean, we're going to build something huge for our grandchildren to occupy. And now is the time. You know, when there's crisis, there's opportunity. I want to let you guys know, like, we don't see anything but blue skies ahead. So I hope you guys are ready for the ride. You know, when we go back into the world, when they let us off quarantine, 2 things are going to happen. You're about to say, never again. I am never going to let another man or another woman control my family's well-being, peace of mind, and security. Or you're going to tuck your tail between your legs. You know you're going to make less money than you did, but at least you still got your job. How many of us are going to say, at least we still got our job? Like, at least my master doesn't beat me as much as your master beats you. You see what I'm saying? Like, all this stuff is the same, and we got to be united. We can't be sitting here throwing rocks and heckling each other's progress, because that's what happened in the 1800s and the 1700s as well. Dan Charlier, when I started, was the Denmark Vesey, was the Sojourner Truth. That we're helping to build this underground railroad, folks. This is not something that I'm just saying. It's not just rhetoric. It's something that everybody on this panel feels, and we just want to know who wants to help us with the digging. You know, we're either part of the problem or we're part of the solution. And so let's make sure that we create a different world moving out of this COVID-19 crisis. And I see great things ahead. As long as we have like-minded people all moving in the same directions, the sky's the limit. We got so much more to add. Marshall, I want to pass it to you if you can take us home. It's been a privilege sharing the stage with you gentlemen. The associations are priceless. Who are your associations? Who's your mentor? Take us home, Marshall. Thank you very much.
Right on, man. Great job, and great job, man. It's funny, you know, when we were planning this out, we were like, oh yeah, we'll do an hour, and now 90 minutes don't even feel like it was enough. We feel like we have so much more to give, and as I keep watching the questions come in or the comments, it's, you know, people are they're hanging on to it. They like what we're doing, and that's the feedback that we want. Because understand this, we could be doing a lot with our time right now on the weekends, even in quarantine. There's always an opportunity to use an hour, hour and a half to do business. Let's be honest, we could all do that, but we'd rather be here with everyone here. We'd rather be here with you, giving you an experience, giving you a real opportunity. And that's all we want you to understand. The difference between who you are and who you want to be is what you do. You understand that?
Yes.
The difference between who you are, you get that? The difference between who you are and what you want to be, it's what you do. Now, some way, somehow, you're going to experience success. Never let success get to your head, and never let failure get to your heart. And you have to understand how it all starts to connect, because the reality, it's up on you. Now, we're going to do something special. We're going to do something special. All right, we're gonna do this. Each one of us, I think, hey, DaJuan, do you have so yeah, each one of us, this is our social media handle, Instagram, and we're going to take, we want you to send us a video as to why we should mentor you. So we're going to pick 10 people, each one of us. We're going to take 10 people, and we're going to sit you down. We're going to have a meeting, and each one of us is going to have 10 people. We're taking 10. So DM us, leave a message. We want a video message, because we want to see who you are. We want to hear you articulate exactly why we should mentor you. And listen, we're not going to give you any guidelines. I would like some passion behind it. I would like some whys in there. And basically, this is the opportunity. This is the opportunity. We'll give you more instructions following to the 10 people that get the opportunity. I know we have 1,000 people on here. We'll be doing this once a month, because we really want to make a difference. And we really want you to feel like you're getting some value when you get on this call. All right? If you're not learning, if you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. You got to understand it. If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. And if you are determined to learn, no one can stop you. And that's what this is about. This opportunity, it's here for you. And we'll show you what the opportunity is. We'll give you an opportunity to change your life. But if you love your life, keep loving it. But if you want more in life, step up to the plate. And we're going to give you a real chance, because people always say, let me tell you what I hear all the time. And this will be it for me. I always hear people tell me how lucky I am because of what happened to me. And I don't think it was luck. I think it was because I wasn't lazy. I did the things I was supposed to do to have the life that I have right now. And if you want a life that you feel you should have, you got to be willing to pay the price to have that life. And everybody ain't willing to pay the price. So if you're willing to pay the price, step into any one of these gentlemen DM and say what you really willing to pay the price for. And we're going to find out if you're willing to pay the price. So this is the Opportunity Zone. DaJuan, thank you, man, for spearheading this. Men, thank you for your time. Everybody on the call, thank you for being a part of this. This is headway right here. This is just the beginning. telling you, this is how something big starts, but it has to start. And we got it rolling. Let's just continue to improve. And you're a part of the first one if you're part of the 1,000 that's been on and you stuck with us throughout the whole time. Down the road, you're going to be able to say, I was on the first one. I was a part of the first one. Anybody got anything to say? Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, Marshall, I'm gonna add one more thing. Thank you for closing us off. I text the moderators behind the screen. They're gonna stay on once that was it. We're done. We're excited. We're gonna stay on.